My name is Yana Lyashenko, and I am a Google logistician. I handle delivering a business's target audience with necessary parameters. For those who don't know, audience delivery means that I can find the audience and bring them to your site in the shortest possible way with specific characteristics. Once on the site, the person decides whether to make a purchase or not. My task is to find more people who are likely to make a purchase from you. So, what do we have today? A case study of a store that has been with us for just 1 month. I hope we will continue our cooperation, but in December, everything declines in productivity and effectiveness. This is a classic story, and I want to share it. I will show the dynamics, what the client came with, and what difficulties there were. An online store. We conditionally call it sports equipment because there's a lot of everything, everything. And we somehow need to conditionally deal with this. Difficulties. First of all, we were surprised that the client came with quite an excellent result. That is, the base here was quite good before. By the way, to the skeptics who do not believe in the work of several performances, I want to emphasize. Here, for example, I am showing you a practical month of our team's work. Here, 21,910 is the rounded number of purchase sales achieved. This is a purchase sales RAS of 882.70, sometimes lower or better. Cost per conversion here on the green graph shows that it didn't jump around much, but it conditionally decreased. The client came with a very good base. Achieving such a result from the good base that the client had before cannot be done with just one performance. So, for those adherents who believe in two performances, especially with copies on different feeds, guys, I want to disappoint you. There are a lot of campaigns here, about 20 or 21 test campaigns alone, not counting the basic part of the advertising campaigns, which haven't been significantly moved yet. I will explain this now, and it might be quite useful for someone. The nuance is that it is very difficult to manage such a large number of campaigns. There are quite a few of them here. Handling them with just 2 or 3 performances is unrealistic. You have an OAS bureau. Google would have downgraded it to a 2 or 3 if you wanted to manage it on 3 performances conditionally, while some only do 1 performance and think that this is not a way out of the situation. The second challenge is to break through the ceiling and make it stable. The second challenge, personally for us, is to ensure that we do not break what was already in the account. So I will tell you as a specialist, it is very easy to achieve target KPIs for your own campaigns by simply transferring traffic and conversions from the base that the client came from, showing that they are outdated and broken while our campaigns are growing. We do not use this method in our accounts. Our task is to conditionally support the overall dynamics and, basically, how to say it correctly, better not to harm. There is such a principle. Our task is to grow overall. All these campaigns were essentially managed by us, but we did not completely overhaul the structure, tearing everything down. As some specialists like to do for some reason, not to demolish, but to support and smoothly transition to the structure that would suit us, for example. And it would suit us with certain categorization or breakdown by other criteria to make it convenient for further scaling. The development cycle of this performance was significantly longer. That is, so it wouldn't stall but would smoothly grow, or maintain a stable plateau while the entire product assortment was working. I will tell you that it is very difficult to do this with just some primitive breakdown. It is very difficult to do this by simply grouping products. And it is very difficult to do this by just breaking it down by price. This is a complex set of factors. The task is not only to avoid breaking anything, but also to achieve growth. Perhaps now I will show where there was a correlation of growth. General dynamics so that you understand what was happening. The next challenge was that because a very large number of conversions were generated only in certain product categories, other categories were not very actively shown at first, and secondly, did not receive relevant purchase sales. The reason is that your performances always take user behavior analytics across the entire account. It's a fact. Whether you want it or not, even if you don't have dynamic remarketing there, if you simply have a purchase goal set up, it will still take into account the user's behavior mechanics. Therefore, if you have a very large store with a wide product assortment, it is important to remember that some categories need to be manually pushed to appear in the displays. Secondly, you need to make them profitable because performance alone cannot achieve this. If it were a new account, these categories would likely have entered faster because there was no analytics. It does not make sense to do this on a new account because it's better to rely on clear analytics. You need not only to maintain the result, but also to grow it. I will show you the budget increased only slightly, but conversions grew by almost 70%. In these conversions for the overall account, just to give you an idea, the budget increased by only 14%, while conversions increased by around 62 to almost 70%. This was not done simply by increasing the budget. I can even show this history of changes if anyone is interested. So, there is a set of difficulties, a base that is important not to break and also to grow. One more important nuance. In most cases, such as this one or many others, for example, the same auto parts, there is a very significant nuance in user behavior. It consists in the fact that people can come to your site for certain products, which I call entry positions or whatever you want to name them, but they might end up buying completely different products. How can you check this for yourself? You simply go in, take a fairly large period, 30 days or even more. What do you do next? Make sure to go to the Product Groups tab, then look at the products and segment them based on those that had conversions. If the number of conversions is at the performance level, provided that your performances are without an object, because adjustments need to be made for this error as well, mine are without an object. I believe that both ATP and Smart Shopping are in the intelligent types of all campaigns. Although this can be tested, it needs to be tested. If you see that the number of conversions on your products is actually less than at the campaign level, congratulations. Most likely, you have some entry positions where people actively come in, but while browsing your site, they end up buying completely different products. And this is also reflected in the performance. Therefore, I emphasize this a lot. I don't like it when you duplicate feeds, when you create too many feeds, especially when you are a very large store. You have 70 to 80% of your product assortment simply not being advertised, not being shown at all. And accordingly, you do not get results. It varies across different niches. For example, take a large power tool store. Simply increasing your impressions won't be enough because if you have little analytics on conversions, just maximizing impressions for all products will be expensive. But if you have analytics, it will be much easier. We focused our attention as much as possible on bringing the advertising account to a more or less stable picture in terms of reducing competition between products during this period. Remember, your product IDs is a separate product item, whether it is in Russian, Ukrainian, 3, 10 languages, or another. It is one product item. If you make a duplicate, it becomes a completely different product. You complicate the performance itself. Sorry, the performance changes its working algorithm. On duplicates, it definitely cannot provide scaling in the long term, however, unlike without duplicating. Secondly, in most of the basic advertising campaigns that the client came with, there was a lot of overlap of the same product. And here it was important, when setting priority bids, shifting, doing, and scaling certain product positions and displays, respectively in clicks and conversions, not to break the overall dynamics. Because one campaign will be a complete failure, while another will see significant growth, and you are killing the campaign. Therefore, it was necessary to maintain this balance and gradually bring the advertising campaigns to a state where there are no identical IDs in different campaigns, or if it is only for working with a specific goal, such as testing certain types of conversions or assisting certain product categories in conversions. In other words, this was also a certain complexity. The task is to ensure that the entire product assortment competes as little as possible for the same display ID, because some will receive conversions while others will not. Sometimes you overbid, sometimes you might not push it enough, and you get something that is just SOSO. Therefore, there is a set of certain complexities here. This always happens with large accounts where either many conversions per month occur or with accounts that, for example, have a very large product assortment, always encountering this. The more conversions you gather, the more such nuances of instability you experience. So, what can be emphasized here? What can be done for you, perhaps? I would do a presentation here, a demonstration, to show how your account has grown by category. The categories here will be blurred. You won't see which categories they are to maintain the client's confidentiality, but conditionally, look, the comparison period, our purchase conversions, there are periods of purchase duplication, but there's a very small percentage, maybe up to 5 to 7% maximum of this amount, but conditionally. What do we see here? By categories, here are the main categories. They are divided into Russian and Ukrainian. Here they will paint, categorize, the Russian version and the Ukrainian feed. Just a moment, take a look at how much they have grown for a moment and see. Plus 50%. This category, I will tell you, converted very poorly overall. Here, please, is the increase in conversions. And next, if you look at the main bulk, we have a certain category that has conditionally remained at the same level, but the main bulk, as you can see, has grown. It's not simple. It's not the season for this category. I won't reveal more. But even before this, there were few conversions, and it's very hard to scale. So you can see the overall dynamics. You can see the same overall dynamics in this graph if I just take, for example, a slightly longer period. And here you can see the period when we start working, a spike in conversions. I think it is visible to the naked eye how the cost per conversion slightly decreased, how it became stable. You can see there are jumps, breakthroughs conditionally, but how it became stable. Here it increased because we had a global site breakdown and a conditional drop. Is it called a drop? The problems in Kiev are relatively old, and this also affects all the work. But it is clearly visible that the trend has started. A mountain of analytics has relatively started. So it is approximately visible that the overall price, if I take, for example, 17, 17, 16, even comparing with the previous period, it will be visible here that the cost per conversion has dropped. We have increased the ROS, and the number of conversions and purchase sales have increased. And as you can see, the amount of traffic has decreased here. I can even show you the costs. That is, we have 53.3, an increase in costs by 53. I will show you now at the campaign level, all the names will be blurred, of course, with the task and goal of keeping the client's anonymity. Here it will be. Let's do it like this, like this. Here it will be seen that the cost part for performance, both basic and non-basic, rose by 18%, while conversions have increased by 75%. I told you that there are some conversions here that are duplicated, so I will demonstrate to you to make everything objective and not just show you the conversions. I don't believe that just, yes, all of this will be blurred out. You won't see any of it. RAM, total, performance max company. Let's take a look. The conversion will be blurred. Here the purchase. The goal is the purchase. Here it's 68, even 82, although I said 62. I was probably looking at previous periods. Look, the expense part for all performances plus 20, let's say 20%. Let's round it up, 20%. The cost per conversion has dropped, profitability has increased slightly, and conversions have grown. The attribution model, the answer, well, it will be visible in the overall revenue here. It is impossible to achieve this with just 2 or 3, at most 5 performances. If you see here along with everyone else, even with 81 removed, I won't show at all how many performances there were in total, but roughly, so you understand, the overall scale of the picture, roughly. There were some periods of duplication conversion here and there, but you can see the result. Not only did we stay within the budget, we slightly exceeded it within what the client requested, but we significantly increased in conversions, considerably more as well. The next conditional period, the accounting one, during which we will be launching, our task is still to further reduce the cost per conversion, because the data-driven attribution model here still does not fully satisfy me in terms of data adequacy. I still plan for us to reduce it in the next accounting period. Whether this will be after the new year or now, we will see. It is possible that we will have a split period of the support, but conditionally. So here is an example when a person comes with an existing base and he wants his managers not to break it. We increased and further brought in more conversions. Here is an example of how this can be done. Due to proper segmentation, highlighting certain categories, starting with small budgets, which I always emphasize, it is always about setting profitability. It is not about maximizing conversions or the target cost per conversion strategy. It is directly working with target ROAS on campaigns without objects, without all these images. This is the start of advertising campaigns, which in most cases are without signals if you have a good fit. I generally believe that a signal is somewhat of a rudiment in some cases. On new advertising accounts, it might be possible. Perhaps until you settle on the optimal version of the feed. Here, we had a pretty good feed with a solid base. Our account had a fairly good conversion base, but as you know, everything can be easily messed up in just a few minutes. And here, by the way, we had some matching IDs. This is a very important nuance because we use our bots in performance for product optimization. Regarding product analysis and product optimization, it is very important that you do not duplicate or mess up your feeds. There will be no magic in your feeds if you create one for standard shopping, one for performance, or one for one performance and another feed for another performance. When you transform it into some kind of ID, the system does not see these IDs on the site because you take one product position, bring it to the site, and then everything goes dark. The person receives analytics under a different ID. Additionally, keep in mind that competition occurs for the search queries of the audience that enters them. In the previous case study on men's accessories, I showed how sharply the conversions increased for the performance, which was with native IDs. For those who don't remember, I'll leave a hint somewhere here. Take a look. This case is it's long. I know it's long to listen to, but it's a problem when you use non-native IDs because it's painful. Moreover, painful for me to find out that some clients alter them on the website itself, meaning that the feed has one set of identifiers, but the website has completely different ones. This is also a pain point because you lose the functionality of itemized work as the product itself is an advertisement. And your task is to teach performance to operate. This is very important specifically for product analysis because the more products you have, the more conditionally, how to name this product, the more it is not just flexible, but variable. The Ukrainian word is like that and changeable. When something was in stock, ran out, or was no longer available, it is necessary to ensure that the performance does not completely collapse due to these conversions, but instead, it should adequately replace them, meaning it should pull up another product position and change it differently. This can never be done even within a single product category because performance simply dies when one product or 5 are out of stock. The more such variable and changeable products there are, the harder it is to learn performance. Therefore, this product-by-product analysis is necessary. If we consider the long-term perspective of smooth growth, IDs should ideally match. If you don't have the capability, like Pro, well, we will work within what we have. If these are other platforms, like Horashop, or somewhere your correct IDs match, it will be faster, easier, as shown by our team's case studies. Here's another case, which I have shared at the request of management, so you can see that what I talk about, for example, in Telegram channels or chats, is not just a single performance. If you scale and you have a certain sales ceiling that you can't break through, or you break through at the cost of declining profitability, don't think that simply recreating the ad campaign or reducing the budget or just increasing the budget will somehow fix the situation. No. Don't think that you can manage with just a few performances. No. The larger the store, the larger the assortment, be prepared that it will require many performances. Not for new accounts, not for accounts with less than 100 purchase sales per month. There is probably no point in playing with this, only within certain limits. Don't rush to buy a large quantity right away. The structure here is not divided by groups conditionally in this account. There are many nuances. It is personalized for each of the projects conditionally, so you understand. There are top performers, non-top performers, weaklings, cash cows, stars, and dead dogs. This entire structure, which is generally used for analyzing your product assortment, is essentially the same story here. Your task is to analyze your product assortment, although a necessary parameter is required. Cash cows, your task is not to kill them, but to feed and take care of them so they produce more milk. Happy flowers were thrown there, turn it on. Dead dogs need to be reoptimized because dead dogs can draw expenses away from potential stars, which can turn into cash cows. It is important for potential stars to quickly turn into cash cows. In principle, the work on the structure is carried out not just by type or price, but by taking all these factors into account. The nuances when this doesn't work are, firstly, when you have very little analytics in the account, or it seems to be there, but for the categories you are launching, it doesn't add up. This means that the audience that converted before had different metrics as a result, different metrics in behavior on the site. The second factor, perhaps somewhere your metrics do not match. The third factor, maybe people come to you through certain products, but end up buying completely different ones. Your task is to test these other products to see if they can independently generate traffic, or if they are conditionally purchased because they look more presentable compared to the previous ones, and without comparison to the previous ones, they simply won't convert. Even that can happen. If you have a single-layered product assortment, such as paints, and you have more than 8,000 product items, it may seem that advertising converts very expensively. But just look, either those same power tools, new accounts, there was very little analytics before, or very unprofitable conversions. You look at the traffic volumes, which is also incorrect because not all of them correlate proportionally to conversions. It is important to understand that sometimes the cost per conversion is high not because the performance is somehow inadequate, but because you have 8,000 products there, each spending, for example, 5 hryvnias. Let's do 1 hryvnia each. Each product item will get 1 click for 1 hryvnia in 1 day, 8,000 hryvnias. What is the probability that a purchase will be made from a single click? Well, it's 50-50. It could be roughly 20% of this traffic volume, or it could be only 5% of this product that gets purchased. The likelihood of them paying off is both yes and no, depending on the price and what is purchased. You should think on a larger scale and approach it by conducting a per item analysis. I do not require you to go into every product position, analyze whether it has impressions or not, performance. This will be sorted out if it has the right analytics and a correct feed. Don't chase after duplicates. Duplicates should only be made in certain cases when you have no other option or you have a specific task to promote a particular small product assortment, and it makes sense to do so. But don't expect this to happen immediately, like, I don't know, so many times. The second recommendation is that if you have a uniform product, for example, paints, it doesn't matter for whom. It could be spare parts. It could be, for example, power tools or stores related to them, garden supplies there. Don't just think about it. Dive deep into your performance. If your costs and impressions are spread out among all the products, it is expensive not because it somehow doesn't understand what you want from it, but simply because there is a very large assortment of products in one campaign. Each one spends at least 2 to 3 hryvnias, which seems like a lot and very expensive because you are given an average indicator. Try to break it down into smaller parts conditionally. Not everyone has the patience for this, but conditionally, this is where some of the nuances of promoting certain categories lie. Performance, although it uses artificial intelligence, is not perfect and does not suit everyone completely. It has an algorithm, and by the way, that's why you don't duplicate feeds yet. You have an algorithm that embeds this artificial intelligence. You just need to provide the right database to this artificial intelligence, and it will give you great results. Don't engage in slacking off. For example, you have a Tesla, hypothetically, which has certain basic functionalities. It was released from the factory. Its software gets updated. Google handles this. Sometimes it turns out well, sometimes not so well. Your task is to drive the car. It's not like you're manually adding another steering wheel to duplicate the feeds. One turns one way, the other turns the opposite, and the wheels diverge like this. Or you're attaching, I don't know, some horns to this Tesla, or maybe, I don't know, making a parachute at the back. This is what you are artificially making up about performance work. Yes, it is sometimes very difficult to operate with these performances, but basically, if you are selling retail, do not chase after large budgets in the first week, because it can stretch over a certain period, but it will be worth it, because you will gradually collect analytics. This will be the simplest method for you to train your performance and then generate the same base. That's basically all I wanted to say about this as well.